Good morning, everyone. For those of you who know me, welcome back. And for those of you who don't, my name is Chelsea. I'm currently a student at Mohawk College and I'm doing their pre-health science program. I've worked at Ryerson, which you guys, some of you know, for many years. And I love God and I love teaching about the Bible. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys this year. It's awesome to be back. I'm hoping that everything is going to go smoothly for us to return to see each other. But let's talk about that. So you guys are going into a school year that is unlike most school years that you've been in. That must be scary and a little bit intimidating. And so I today want to tell you a story about Daniel from the Old Testament, who was also in a situation that was scary and intimidating. So we're just going to watch a video and then we're going to go through it together.
Bible, Daniel in the Lion's Den. This is Daniel.
Oh, hey!
Who was a Jewish man who was taken to Babylon when he was very young.
Yeah.
Daniel loved God and followed God's rules. He talked to God 3 times a day and asked God for help often. Daniel served in the Babylonian king's court for many years
Yeah, I know him.
and under many kings.
Daniel.
Daniel always proved himself to be more capable than all the other court officials.
Thanks. Oh, anytime.
Daniel was serving under King Darius, and because of his great abilities, the king made plans to place him in charge of the entire empire.
Wow, okay.
The other court officials searched for some fault in Daniel, but they couldn't find anything wrong with him. He was faithful, responsible, and completely trustworthy.
Wait.
The court officials realized the only way to get at Daniel would be to challenge his faith.
Come on.
So they went to King Darius
Excuse me, Your Majesty.
and advised him to make a law that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone except King Darius will be thrown into the lion's den.
I like it.
King Darius signed this law, and once a Babylonian king signed a law, it could not be overruled. When Daniel learned of this law, he went home and knelt down, as he always did, to pray in his room with the windows open towards Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he always had done, giving thanks to God and asking for his help. The officials went to Daniel's house and found him praying.
Gotcha.
They went to the king and reminded him of the law.
I remember.
Well,
Then they said that Daniel had been found praying to God 3 times a day.
What?
When the king heard this, he was very upset,
Get over here.
and he spent the whole day trying to think of a way to save Daniel.
wait, what?
By that evening, the court officials came back to the king and reminded him that no law signed by the Babylonian king could be overruled. So at last, the king gave orders for Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den. The king said to him, "May your God, who you serve faithfully, rescue you." Then the lion's den was sealed shut with Daniel inside. The king spent the night fasting and couldn't sleep. Then very early in the morning, the king hurried to the lion's den. He called out,
Hey, Daniel.
"Was your God able to rescue you from the lions?" And Daniel answered, "Long live the king! My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me, for I have been found innocent in his sight." The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be taken out of the lion's den. Then the king ordered the men who had schemed against Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den as punishment. Daniel was safe. There was not a scratch on him, for he trusted in God.
So Daniel was a Jewish man brought into Babylon when he was young because he was physically well, he was mentally well, and they were bringing him to work in the king's court, which he did work in the king's court, and he was very, very tight with God. So he would pray 3 times a day, and that would help him as he was able to interpret king's dreams. So he continued to grow in this Babylon court, and he worked there, and he was very favored among the kings because he had these incredible things that he could do that the others couldn't do. So the others who worked under the king would get very jealous and kind of pushed the king to make this law. So this king made the law and said, in the next 30 days, anybody who's found worshiping or praying to any god other than me is going to be thrown in a den of lions. So Daniel heard that, and then he went back and he immediately was praying again, praying 3 times a day to God, to our God. And these people, these men went as a group and they found him praying. And so then they went to the king and they said, Daniel's praying, Daniel's praying. What, you can't take a law back once it's been set. But the king really loved Daniel, so the king spent time trying to figure out how the heck he was going to make it so that Daniel did not have to have any punishment, but was continuously reminded that once a law is made, a law is made. And so I'm going to read you a little bit from just the Bible here. So I'm reading from Daniel 6, verse 16 right now. So it says, so the king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. The king said to Daniel, may your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you. A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the rings of his nobles, so that Daniel's situation might not be changed. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night without eating and without any entertainment being brought to him, and he could not sleep. At the first light of dawn, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in an anguished voice, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions? And Daniel answered, may the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouth of the lions. They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight, nor have I ever done anything wrong before you, your majesty. And so this is mainly what I wanted to talk about, is that Daniel was thrown literally in front of lions. So we've all seen lions. They're pretty scary. They roar really loud. They have really loud teeth. They're huge animals. But what he did was continue to have faith. He was put in a really scary situation, and he continued to pray to his God. He continued to have faith. And so this is an amazing story. And as we are going into the school years and we're getting nervous and things are uncomfortable, I want you guys to remember this story, that God is there and God is listening, and that you can always go to him, just like Daniel went to him. Things get scary. Things aren't always easy. But we have a God who listens, and we have a God who protects us and who loves us. So that is just, I'm going to leave you with that today. And then next week, we're actually going to be starting to do a Zoom call. So if you guys want to join me on Zoom in the morning, that will be happening at 10 o'clock, and the link will be sent out to you. Otherwise, we will still also be posting these videos. So I'm really hoping you guys had an awesome week, and I will see you next week.